Let's just dive right in, shall we? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're cracking open what is, without a doubt, history's most baffling, completely unsolved case file. Imagine a book sitting right in front of us. It's beautifully preserved, and yet, literally not a single human being on Earth can read a single word of it. I mean, this isn't a fantasy novel. It's not the plot of some sci-fi movie. It is a very real, physical object that has absolutely frustrated the smartest people on the planet.
And when I say the smartest people, you gotta look at the sheer scale of the brilliant minds that have tackled this puzzle. I mean, think about what connects the legendary Alan Turing, the guy who broke the Nazi Enigma code, the brilliant founders of the National Security Agency, and cutting-edge 2025 artificial intelligence. The answer is mind-blowing. They all completely, spectacularly failed to read even one sentence of this 600-year-old book.
So let's look at the actual object for a second. We're talking about exactly 240 pages. They're made of 15th century vellum, which is basically animal skin parchment, pretty standard for medieval Europe. Right now, it's sitting locked in a vault at Yale University. But it first burst into the modern spotlight back in 1912. That's when a Polish book dealer named Wilfred Voynich discovered it, just tucked away behind a shelf in a Jesuit library in Italy. The story goes, he pulled it out, opened the very first page, and literally just stopped dead in his tracks.
And honestly, it makes total sense why he stopped. The entire book is written in this alien script that cryptographers now call Voynichese. It's completely unidentified, made up of roughly 25 to 30 unique characters. It's written left to right with this incredibly confident handwriting. And here is the crazy part. There are absolutely zero mistakes. Seriously, no crossed out words at all. It's like the author knew exactly what they were writing. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. Statistical cryptographers have analyzed this thing to death, and they found it behaves exactly like a natural human language. Words cluster together, the vocabulary shifts naturally when the topic seems to shift, so it looks incredibly meaningful. And yet it matches absolutely no known human language. None.
The evidence box. 6 bizarre sections.
Because when you actually flip through the pages, things get genuinely deeply strange. The book is divided into 6 main sections. First up, the botanical section. This is 126 pages detailing 113 different plant species. But they're basically Frankenplants. Botanists look at these drawings and they see the roots of one plant attached to the leaves of another, topped with the flowers of a completely unknown third species. None of these exist anywhere on Earth. Then you've got the astronomical section. 17 pages of zodiac signs, but they're in the completely wrong order, and they're surrounded by tiny, naked female figures who are literally tied with ropes to stars. Yeah, tied to stars. Next is the biological section, which might be the strangest of the bunch. It's filled with naked women bathing in these vibrant green and blue pools, all connected by elaborate, bizarre tubes and pipes. Some experts think it's anatomy, others say alchemy, nobody really knows. After that, a pharmaceutical section showing unidentified medicines in these little red and blue jars. Then a cosmological section with these massive fold-out pages depicting floating islands and unknown castle-like structures. And finally, a continuous block of text believed to be recipes, but again, completely unreadable.
The mysterious journey, tracing the manuscript's owners.
So, where in the world did this impossible object actually come from? Well, thanks to carbon dating done by the University of Arizona back in 2009, we know for a fact that the vellum and the ink date back to between 1404 and 1438. They used completely authentic 15th century materials. Now, the historical record suggests the book was once owned by John Dee, who was Queen Elizabeth I's personal astronomer. He supposedly passed it on to Emperor Rudolf II in Prague during the 16th century. From Rudolph's court, it bounced around to chemists like Jacobus Horchigi, moved on to various alchemists, eventually landed in Jesuit Rome, hid in a library for literally centuries until Wilfred Voynich found it in 1912, and finally, since 1969, Yale University has been its guardian. But here is the kicker. Every single owner tried to read it, and every single one of them failed.
The Investigators, Humanity versus the Book.
The contrast between this single, relatively small book and the monumental global resources thrown at it is just incredible. I mean, the roster of people who have tried to break this code reads like an intelligence hall of fame. You've got William Friedman, the guy who broke Japan's purple cipher in World War II, saved thousands of lives, and went on to found the NSA. You've got Alan Turing, the absolute genius who broke the Nazi Enigma code and basically changed the course of history. Turing actually had a copy of this manuscript and found absolutely no breakthrough. The CIA tried, the FBI tried, top British codebreakers like John Tiltman tried. Moving in the 1970s, they threw early computer pattern matching algorithms at it. In the 1990s, they used advanced statistical analysis, and the result? Nothing. An absolute brick wall.
William Friedman, that NSA founder we just talked about, spent entire decades of his life on this manuscript. He brought the vast resources of the NSA and early computers to bear on the text, and his final, just utterly defeated assessment was this: the language has definite morphological rules, but cannot be broken.
So what about crowdsourcing, right? Maybe the collective power of the internet could finally solve it. In 2004, Yale released high-resolution digital scans to the public. It was an open challenge to the entire world. And naturally, a lot of people arrogantly claimed they'd cracked it. For instance, in 2019, one researcher very loudly proclaimed it was just a proto-Romance language written by Dominican nuns. But the academic and linguistic community completely debunked and honestly destroyed that claim almost immediately.
Which brings us to the ultimate modern test. In 2025, researchers decided to unleash an advanced large language model AI on the text. They trained this thing on a staggering 37 million historical texts and just let it loose on the manuscript. The final result? 0 coherent translations. Now, the AI did notice some basic topic clusters, like it found plant-related vocabulary on the herbal pages, anatomy-related words on the biological pages, and time-related words on the astronomical ones. But it couldn't give us even a single confirmed sentence of actual meaning.
Claire Bowen, who is a linguistics professor at Yale, perfectly summed up this ultimate frustration in 2025. She said, "It looks like it should be easy to read. It's very hard to work with. It just teases you, It behaves exactly like a real language, but acts as this completely impenetrable fortress."
The suspects. 5 leading theories.
So if the world's absolute best minds can't read it, what do the experts actually think this book is? Well, let's look at theory number 1. It's a 15th century hoax. The idea here is that some clever scam artist created a fake book of meaningless gibberish just to swindle rich royals, like selling it to Rudolph II for a massive 600 gold ducats. And sure, hoaxes were pretty common back then. But here's the massive flaw with that idea. Faking an absolutely perfect statistical language, maintaining a perfectly logical language-like structure without repeating yourself across 240 continuous pages, all back in the 1400s without a computer? That level of consistency is basically impossible. We have 0 historical precedent for a fake that good.
Okay, theory number 2. It's a lost European language. Perhaps it belonged to a small, forgotten 15th century community that just died out, leaving only this behind. It's a really nice thought, right? But the fatal flaw here is the total lack of a historical footprint. Civilizations don't just vanish into thin air and leave exactly one perfectly intact book behind. There are no matching historical records, no borrowed words in any neighboring languages, nothing. Statistically speaking, it's just incredibly unlikely.
Now, theories 3 and 4 often go hand in hand. It's either an incredibly complex cipher hiding Latin or Italian, or it's a completely invented language, sort of like an early version of Esperanto. In fact, in 2025, a researcher proposed a naive cipher method. But the flaw remains exactly the same. Without a decryption key, any cipher theory is completely unverified. And if it's just an invented language that some author made up for a fun experiment, why on earth did they hallucinate utterly non-existent, bizarre plants that don't match a single living thing on Earth? It just doesn't add up.
Which brings us to the 5th, and perhaps the most hushed theory of them all, the secret theory. This proposes that the book actually contains deliberately encrypted, forbidden knowledge. Think about it. The strange bodily processes, the women connected by those elaborate tubes in the colored pools, the totally unknown star systems. Maybe these things were considered incredibly dangerous, taboo, or heretical in the 15th century. The idea is that the author heavily encrypted the text and drew completely unrecognizable plants specifically so the knowledge couldn't be identified by the authorities of the time.
And that leaves us standing right back in front of this 600-year-old masterpiece, staring at its untranslated pages, left with one haunting, provocative thought to take away from all this. If all of this was carefully recorded, meticulously painted and bound together, if this truly is knowledge, why was it hidden?